Hey YouTube, this is Zylock with Media Hindsight. First I want to start off by saying I hope everybody's having a great 4th of July. I hope the weekend's going to be, pretty low-key and relaxing. Hopefully you don't have to work. I wanted to make sure I got out a video this Friday. I wanted to make sure I got a chance to look at Gradius 3 for the Super Nintendo. This game came out in 1989 in Japan, but was at first an arcade game. Then in 1990 came out for the Super Famicom. And then in 1991, they finally brought it out in North America when the Super Nintendo release, which is one of my favorite systems of all time. I'm sure most people have very fond memories of it. But let's take a look at Gradius 3. From a gameplay perspective, Gradius 3 is much like any side-scrolling space shooter. Levels scroll from left to right as you dodge a flurry of enemy fire and return your own, collecting power-ups along the way to improve your ship's arsenal and defensive options. What truly sets Gradius 3 apart is that it allows you to select from several preset loadouts of weapons or even customize your own. The most fun part is finding out which combination of guns, missiles, shields, and options really gel with your own playstyle. Having difficulty with a rather tough boss, select the concentrated laser to really rack up the damage, or select the ripple to fire a wave of death that will eliminate several enemies at once. The choice is yours, and this really adds a nice level of replay value. Selecting the proper weapon is only a small part of the battle though. When a new game is started, you start off with nothing but a simple weak gun, good enough to eliminate some smaller groups of enemies, but it's not going to cut it as you progress through each area. Killing certain enemies and enemy waves will award you with an orange or blue power-up. Blue power-ups are simply screen-clearing bombs, but they seem to always appear in extremely odd breaks in the action, and that completely negates their usefulness. Orange power-ups, which are much more common, are used to power up your ship. Think of each one you collect as a point. At the bottom of your screen, there's a list of power-ups that you choose originally before starting your game. Each point will move the highlighted power-up icon. The more you save before spending, the better upgrade you can get. For example, if you save just 1, you can upgrade your ship's movement speed. But if you save 4, you can upgrade your gun. This adds a great sense of progression and tactical thinking to an overall straightforward experience and really promotes experimentation. Death in this game occurs after getting hit just once, unless you have saved up for a shield power-up. Herein lies the biggest problem with Gradius 3 though. When you lose a life, you begin at the latest checkpoint. No big deal, except in this game it really is. When you die, you lose all of your hard-earned upgrades. Every single one of them. It takes almost 2 full levels to upgrade your ship completely sometimes, so you can see how this penalty can be pretty steep. Throw on top of this that most later levels are almost impassable without a good set of upgrades, and you can just imagine the kind of mindless practice that's required to get through this game's 10 levels without making a single mistake just to retain your mandatory weaponry. In the console port of Gradius 3, you do have 3 lives per continue, and unlimited continues to practice each level. This makes the difficulty a little easier to stomach, but sometimes a level's worth of power-ups just wasn't enough for me to make any headway. So I had to start the game over and hope for a better run. Another disappointment is the level of detail and difficulty in the bosses. Sure, they're all pretty different looking, but I think they could have sunk a little bit more effort into designing them, as none of them are very memorable, And why are the bosses a joke in comparison to the struggle that you just had to go through to get there? It doesn't make sense unless the developers just wanted to give the players a breather. But let's be honest, boss battle needs to be intense, or at least unique enough to be memorable, and Gradius 3's bosses are neither. The graphics here are nothing mind-blowing, but to be fair, it was a release title for the Super Nintendo, so the hardware capabilities weren't quite realized, and it was a port of an arcade game that came out 2 years earlier. About half of each level seems to consist of just the same space-looking background, and then there's a transition to a more distinct planet-designed area. Each look pretty different, and some have some interesting gimmicks, such as having to blast away debris or dodge volcanic eruptions, but these levels won't be ones to remember for years to come. The second biggest problem with this game is the slowdown, and is there ever a lot of it? It seems that if there's any more than 10 objects on the screen at one time, the game just chugs at what seems like 5 frames a second. This is both good and bad in its own right. On one side, it really breaks the immersion of the game and makes the player focus on the frame rate drops instead of the gameplay. On the other hand, it can be a huge advantage to see incoming fire and have a lot more time to react to it. Sitting and writing this review, I thought pretty hard about the music that accompanies each level and boss encounter. And at the end of the day, I couldn't recall a single memorable theme except the opening title screen. I suppose I can't expect any of the themes to live up to the Legend of Zelda or the Donkey Kong Country themes. But after spending many hours with this title, I figured at least the first couple levels would have stuck with me, as I played them probably 10 plus times just trying to get through the game. Well, so far, I've been pretty tough on Gradius 3, but at the end of the day, I have to look back and just remember that I walked away from my time with it smiling. So there's something to be said for that, and I'm definitely going to have to give the game a 70 out of 100. Be it from the creative custom loadout options or the satisfaction of just getting a little bit further in a level that's been giving me a headache. Gradius 3 is fun underneath all of the slowdown and questionable difficulty. This game's not for the faint of heart, but I would recommend it for any Super Nintendo owner or shoot-'em-up fan to at least give this title a shot. And as always, YouTube, thanks for watching. This is Zylock with Media Hindsight, signing out.